Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are watching this. I am the CHALL, and today Chall Chats, the latest Doncaster Rovers news in your DRFC daily reports. Coming up this evening, as you're watching this in the UK, Ben Close signs a brand new 2-year contract, and will Matthew Craig return next season on another loan deal or even a permanent deal, as he hasn't ruled out a return to Rovers next season. So before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so you never miss another YouTube video. We are on the road to 3,000 subscribers and 500,000 views. Let's get there as soon as possible, please. And for now, guys, let's have a look at everything going on in the world of Doncaster Rovers Football Club. So we start off with some positive news, some really positive news, and that is Ben Close has signed a brand new 2-year deal. So I'm going to go through all the details on this and also share my thoughts in terms of how much of a role he's going to play next season, going forward, how important he is to the plans, that kind of thing. So here's just the main couple of details that we know about this. He's committed his future to the club until the summer of 2026, and it's a new 2-year contract officially with Rovers. So, of course, for those of you who don't know, Ben Close, of course, came to Rovers from Portsmouth in the 2021-22 summer window. Obviously, Richie Wellens was named as manager. It was when he was first appointed. The first signing we made was Ben Close on a 3-year deal. And I actually can't believe, you know what? People who've watched the channel for ages will realize, God, how time's flown. We remember doing the video when Ben Close actually signed his deal, his first deal. I can't actually believe we're 3 years on from that. It's really, really weird. It's so weird to be 3 years on from that. It's honestly just it's a bit unreal. You can't really fathom it at this stage. So obviously, remember when Ben Close signed, he had a massive, massive injury. We know that he's been involved in the squad majorly up until January. We know there's a good player in there. We know that for a fact. He's still, in my opinion, and some people may agree with this, some people may disagree. I think we're still yet to see the best of Ben Close, and that could be a good thing because obviously there's doubts that it could be a bad thing because are we going to see those levels when he comes back in pre-season, which I'm hoping he does. Which I think, fingers crossed. I think the latest update was that he hopefully would back in pre-season. We just don't know it for certain yet. So with Ben Close, for me, hopefully he's back in pre-season. Fingers crossed he will be. And are we going to see? Is the levels that we saw before the injury in January the best of Ben Close? I'm hoping not. I do think there is better to come from Ben Close, and I think other people will believe that as well. I do believe we still haven't seen the best yet of Ben Close. I really don't think we've seen the best of him yet. And the reason why is because I feel like he's still got a lot more to give. Now, in terms of where he fits into this team when he comes back, I think he takes over Matthew Craig's duties. I think when he goes back to Spurs, I think that he comes in, takes over that duty, and becomes kind of the number one kind of defensive midfielder in a way. Alongside Bailey, I think Bailey and Close could strike up a really nice partnership together next season, depending on the rest of the transfer window in the summer. Obviously, potentially that could push George Broadbent out on a loan deal at some point during the summer. You never know. I think Broadbent was always going to be a long-term project. It weren't going to be a quick fix straight away. It weren't going to be a case of Broadbent comes in straight away, hits the ground running, that kind of thing. For me, I feel like Broadbent needed this season to kind of just get his feet under the table, keep him developing. He's still a younger talent, so there is an opportunity to keep him playing and keep him going. So for me personally, I feel like there's more to come from Broadbent. I think he's a long-term player, but with Ben Close, I think with the experience that he's got, I think that he's the kind of player you need alongside Owen Bailey next season, depending, of course, on the rest of the transfer situation, loans, etc. Um, Obviously, you've also got Sam Stroud-Brown in that position as well. I'm sure he's going to probably stick with the under-18s, maybe come in a couple of the cup games. We know that he might be involved out on loan as well, so there's an opportunity for him to go out on loan next season. So, we know how highly McCann rates a few of the youth players. We know that Will Flint and Sam Stroud-Brown are two players that I'm sure that Grant McCann would highly rate after, I've seen him play a few times with the academy, and I think they're two types of players that McCann would rate very, very highly, in my opinion, especially with the way he plays at the moment. So, for me personally, I think that Ben Close will start alongside Bailey. You might loan out Broadbent or Sam Stroud-Brown next season, depending on the rest of the situation. And that brings me on to the next and final story of the two in this Daily Reports this evening, and that is on Matthew Craig, and that is on his future beyond this season. And here's the quotation, and there's been reports about this over the last 24 hours. Um, he said before the victory against Crawley, "Yeah, I've really liked it here. I think at the end of the season, we'll see what Spurs say as well. So far, I've really enjoyed my time here." Do I think that's an indication that he's not ruling out a potential opportunity to come back? I believe personally that's just him saying, "I've really loved my time at Rovers so far," and he's liking his time there. Would I like him back? 100% I'd love him back. If Spurs came to Grant McCann and Doncaster Rovers in the summer and said, "Look, we don't really see a future for him in the first team." First of all, I don't know why they wouldn't see a future for him. For me, I think he's got the capabilities to long term make it to the first team, but that's just my personal opinion. Especially with him being the captain of the under 21 squad, which is just below the senior squad, by the way. Um, with Matthew Craig, if Spurs came to us and said, "Look, we don't see a future for him. We're going to be bringing in this, this, and this under Postecoglou. We don't see a pathway for him into the first team. Would you be open to first refusal on a permanent or another loan deal that turns into a permanent?" Something like that. If we're offered something like that, or if we were offered a permanent deal straight up, and let's be perfectly honest here. Broadbent, I think he was out of contract. No, he wasn't out of contract. He had a year left. Sorry, at Sheffield United when we bought him. So, and that but from what people have said and stuff like that, I bet Broadbent was somewhere around the £90,000, £100,000 mark. I don't think it was anything more than. If I was to give a maximum and a minimum for Broadbent, I'm not saying this is what it actually was, but in my personal prediction, I think the price tag could have been anywhere between 80 to 150 grand. I think that's probably the price tag we're talking here. Matthew Craig, I think Spurs will want at least 150 grand for him. From my personal prediction, from my personal standpoint, I think we're looking here at 150 to 200 grand for Matthew Craig if you're looking at a permanent deal, especially with 2 years left in his contract. It's very clear with Westbrook signing a 2-year deal rather than an extension clause being triggered on his current contract, with Ben Close signing a new 2-year deal, with Maxwell on a new 2-year deal, with Wood signing his 1-year extension. It's clear that there's more money to play with, and there's more of a budget to play with this particular time. I think I'm not going to go all out and say that Donny Rovers have opened the bloody war chest and say, "Look, we've got this, this, and this to play with. We're going to have one of the top budgets, etc." That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I think we've got more of a budget to play with than last summer. So some of that's being used early to sort out a few contracts. I think Molyneux will get sorted out, probably Faulkner as well, and I think we'll probably leave it at that, in my opinion. But in terms of transfer budget, I'm pretty sure Terry will invest a bit more to cover the loss of the contract money to invest into more of the playing budget. We're not going to have one of the biggest budgets in the league, but what I will say is, I think, in my opinion, it will be at least a stable League Two budget. I think it'll be one of the. I think our budget for League Two will probably be in the top 12, top 15. I'll be brutally honest here. I'm not too sure how high in that top 12, top 15, but I would guess around that mark. I might be wrong. I could be wrong. Don't take my word for it, but my prediction is a top 12 to 15 budget. So, and we know that part of it will be hit by that, little penalty for the late loan payment last season to the FL. I think we've paid that already, so that will have come out of it potentially. So budget wise, I think we'll be all right this year. And you know what? I want to say this straight off the bat as well. I think that for me as a football fan, and for me as a Rovers fan, I've always believed in it's not about how much money you've got; it's about what you do with it. Barrow being the perfect example. They won't have the biggest budget in the league at all. But what they're doing with it is recruiting very, very smartly, and they're recruiting a squad needed to get into the playoffs. And they could have been automatically promoted this season, but I think they'll get playoffs this year. So, and compared to Wrexham, who I'm sure will have spent loads on wages, and they've not even won the title this year. That's going to go to Stockport or Mansfield. So it's not about, and that's not a dig at Wrexham, by the way. It's still going to be great. I'm sure it's going to be great for Wrexham fans to see them potentially in League One next season through automatics. Um, but for me, I feel like it's not a case of how much money you've got; it's a case of what you do with it, with what you've got. Even Swindon. Swindon's gone through a lot of problems ownership-wise over this last year, and they're in a really difficult position next season, depending on what happens. But if the right man is appointed, it was within their budget range, their financial constraints, etc. If that man can do something with that squad and recruit smartly with the budget he's been given, then and Swindon do all right next season. Because I know most people will predict Swindon to finish near the relegation places next season with their ownership issues at the moment. And if the manager comes along at that club and gets them to a decent position, I'm not saying they're going to, plant trees and climb Mount Everest. But if they just get into the top 12, top 15, Swindon, that's still better than what most people will be predicting them to finish next season because they're going to be one of the struggling teams next year. So for me personally, it's not about what you've got, it's about what you do with it. And I think with the recruitment team we've got in place now, with Grant McCann getting a second season under his belt, finally, for the first time since he's been a Rovers manager, because of course we all know that he only had 1 year at Rovers in League One and of course 1 year in League Two now. So this will be his first time having consecutive seasons at Rovers. And if I'm correct, this will be the first time he's had consecutive seasons with any club since Hull City a couple of years ago now. I think we're talking about 2, 3 years ago now, nearly. So, it's great to see McCann getting consistent seasons. We always knew it was going to happen. We always had faith in this manager. And that's the reason why we didn't question him as much as maybe what other people suggest us to do. So, for me personally, I just feel like he's got an opportunity here to really build something. And I think that Matthew Craig could be a part of that. And if Spurs offer us a chance to do a permanent deal for 150, 200 grand, I'd say it's worth every single penny because not only are you going to get a permanent contract for a loanee, which is always great with these kind of loan deals, same with Adelaide. If we can get him on a permanent contract this summer, that'd be even better. Lotala, another one. But Lotala, I'll say this about Lotala, I'm not too worried if we don't get a permanent deal for Lotala because I think there's similar players out there that are just as good. But Lotala is a fantastic goalkeeper. If we can do a permanent deal for him, I really want to. If we don't get it done, it isn't the end of the world. I think it'd be more of the end of the world if we don't get a permanent deal done for Adelaide, in my opinion, and I think Matthew Craig technically as well. But yeah, get the deal done. If we can get it done, get it done. If they want another loan deal instead, still get it done. Get another loan deal done if we can do it. And if not, we'll find some similar players. Like I said, with Lotala, there's some similar players out there. Louis Molden on loan from Wolves, ex-Rochdale keeper. So we'll see what happens. But for now, guys, thank you very, very much for watching this video. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you stay tuned for all the latest news. Of course, the preview for Wrexham will come out on Monday. We're filming that tomorrow. We're also going to get some content from the Wrexham game itself at the ground. We're going to be meeting up with Tom from St. Louis, who's coming down for the game. So stay tuned for all the content from the Wrexham game. And for now, guys, I'm the CHALL. Ta-ra for now.